huge amount to write home about, so I think we will move on, shall we?
Yeah, let's move in to Thursday night. I mean, this has all thrown me off being on a Wednesday, and with the Euros, it's just, I don't even know what day it is. It finished St Helens 2, Warrington 6, having been 2-6 at half-time. Chris the Kendall was your referee. And in terms of statistics, Saints actually made more metres average gain even in defeat, but only by 55 and a worse average gain for fewer breaks and with more errors. They also fell below the 90% team tackle success rate, while having 2.2% better success on that stat, as well as 2 extra breaks and the only try of the game. In terms of that winning Warrington side, Darryl Clark making 57 tackles, 10 of those for a marker. The flying pig himself, Tom Lynham, 1 try assist, 7 tackle busts, and 164 metres. Tony King, you've written here.
I don't know. I've had a nightmare here, haven't I?
Yeah, the admin's just not up to scratch. Toby King made 8 tackle busts, 144 metres, and Chris Hill ran for 137 metres for the losing St Helens side. What a surprise. James Roby, 51 tackles. Tommy Makinson, 9 tackle busts, 220 metres. Johnny Lomax, 129 metres. And Theo Farge making 41 tackles. And we had plenty of views on this one.
Yeah, Fatboy Rob said, those Scousers love a good boo. Mamo played well, loads better than Pete did yesterday. I'd take that with the intention it was left there to be that Castleford look like they're going to be signing Jake Mamo to replace Peter Matalia.
Maybe they were recalling their previous signing, Travis Bouwerns. Reference for you there.
Oh, this guy or girl, Ro Hayden, they jinxed the whole weekend for me.
Yeah, Ro Hayden said, and do get in touch with us and tell us a bit more about yourself, Ro. I am so happy for Warrington as they beat St Helens because I'm a Wigan Warriors fan. Good game from the start for Warrington, but then it started to get scrappy for St Helens. Let's hope Wigan win. Well, I didn't. It's your fault.
Next time, leave that bit off. Remember that we're going to talk about it after we know how fucking abysmal Wigan were. Lee Whitnell said, a magnificent defensive display by the Mighty Wire that was only matched by the defensive salty Saints fans and their moaning about our time-wasting tactics. Like LMS et al. Don't do exactly the same thing when the roles are reversed. Of course they do. They threw everything at us for 80 minutes and couldn't break us. Fucking magnificent. Now we've shown this steely defence, we need to see it more often though.
Aidan Stalker said, my eyesight finally recovers after watching the Saints attack last night, and then I see that Bentley is off to Leeds. What a start to the weekend. Let's see if there are any cans in the fridge.
That was my Saturday attitude. EFC78JU said, I loved watching the game on Thursday night, seeing St Helens lose their second game and Wire do the favour for Wigan to go back top of the table. The one thing... Oh, fucking EFC jinxed it too! The one thing I am for most Saints fans will agree on is the obstruction in the 37th minute on Tommy Makinson, but I will take the win off a Ben Curry try and conversion off Widdop, but it's still the lowest scoring game so far.
St David said, defence great as per. Sadly, attack was slow and low risk. Wire defended brilliantly. Their physio in particular was outstanding, snuffing out several chances. Are Wire faking injuries? ? I think so. Having said that, we were slow and clunky last night and we will be sharper onwards.
David would have been in the stadium. From watching on television, there were a couple of times where some Warrington players were visibly distressed and probably played on with knocks rather than faking it. I think, but... There you go. David Hunter said, anyone would think that 6-2 and all the points in the first half would be a dour match, but both teams had attacking opportunities. This had the feel of a final. Widdop is in great form. I thoroughly enjoyed the game, and it now has thrown the door wide open in a comp that was looking down to 2 or 3 clubs.
Mike Webb, 58, said, firstly, credit to the Wire, totally sus Saints attack, or lack of it, and probably had a bit in reserve if Saints had scored. However, Sky trying to make it sound like a defensive masterpiece was way over the top. Far too error-ridden for that. Finally, hope the Wire players have recovered from their sudden onset leg and head injuries.
We did get a late line in from Neil Ormston. He said, Wire again prove they can defend when they want to against one of the so-called top teams. Saints prove that against a decent side they can't cut it. We need a new measure. Performance against other top four sides. Wire 100%. Saints 0%. Hill, Clark, Cooper and co bossed the Saints pack as usual, and we had just enough down the left channel to sneak the win. Disappointed we didn't keep them scoreless though.
Hill, Clark, Cooper and co, is that a firm of accountants? Answers in a postcard. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was.
I'm going to Google it whilst you tell us your feelings on the game.
Two evenly matched sides who came up against each other. I think that the point about the Saints' attack was right. It was quite one-dimensional. They did seem to lack some fluency, but I think it was partly just the pressure they were being put under, and that they haven't experienced that pressure really this season. So that it's right that they weren't going to be at that level. So I think that's probably where that had come from. So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really decent game to watch, and it did grip me in. I did find it, one that was worth sticking with.
There is a Hill and Clark who are estate agents in Boston in Lincolnshire, and a Clark Cooper Limited who I'm not quite sure what they do, but they're based in Hertfordshire.
There we go.
There's also a Cooper Clark based in Lincoln, so they're all over it. Anyway, back to the game.
They run by a bloke called John. Yeah, that was
poetry in motion. That one, Tim.
Oh dear. What did you think?
I enjoyed this game. I can watch a game like this every now and again. I think when you throw into the mix some of the bits where Saints didn't quite get it right, but they were close-ish calls, like they were the right call with the forward passes and a couple of times where people got pushed right out wide, that there wasn't just about enough to keep you interested. I think the closeness helped with that, especially because you thought, well, there's quality in both these sides, so there's going to be an opportunity to show that at some point, but actually there was only one real piece of attacking quality in the game, one try. But Warrington's defence was really good, and what St Helens didn't do is change it up. Warrington were defending really well from in to out. I don't understand why Saints didn't try a few more drop-off balls or something like that, and change the tactics a little bit, because you could see that the outside defence, the inside defence for Warrington was pushing from the inside out, and then the outside defenders were coming up fast on the ball players. So there probably was opportunities, but maybe the side wasn't right for that. Maybe if they had a Bentley who's a bit more dynamic than Thompson and Matautia in the second row, and I think they ended up putting Knowles out in the second row, didn't they, to try and do a bit of that, and it didn't quite come off. So it's in, there's a blueprint there for how to defend against St Helens, but similarly, it wasn't like Saints didn't show you can defend against Warrington too. I enjoyed this game, like I say, but I wouldn't want to watch one of these every week.
No, it was a rare treat, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and definitely compared to the night before, it was a total flip around in intensity. This game did feel like it meant something.
Yeah. And you wouldn't be surprised to see this as a playoff or final game towards the back end. I mean, it almost certainly will be. And you could see this sort of performance and this sort of scoreline in that. I think whoever it was that mentioned that this could be a final is not far off.
It's feeling like it's got a chance of that. Any players individually stand out for you? I found it hard to pick out players too much because it was more about the defence. But I thought Chris Hill, is going to have to be talked about for England again, which is remarkable because he was in the bin for me 2 years ago.
Well, he spent a fair bit of time in the bin, didn't he? Yeah, I think I was going to say Chris Hill because I think he does seem to have become slightly cleaner, and he seems to have cleaned up his act a bit, which has also led to him improving his game. And I think the two are very much linked. So I think, yeah, he did very well. I think, not surprised anyone, James Roby stood out doing James Roby things still. He didn't quite have the full sharpness possibly to cut through, but still was asking plenty of questions.
Yeah, and Makinson did what Makinson does, but they forced him to only do it at the other end of the field. I think was a good sign from Warrington, and I do think maybe it was a down game for Jack Wellesby, but you can't expect him to be awesome every week at his age and experience levels. And similarly, I think you saw a little bit of up and downness maybe as well from some of the bench players for Saints. I don't think they gave in a lot of impetus, even though they had the odd moment. Whereas I never really noticed Warrington doing interchanges because it kind of felt like the same stuff going on. Sitter Akwala put on a couple of big hits when he came on and looked like in a better top level game shape than I think you normally see him. I mean, he normally looks like a weak link to me, that a player you can get around and get behind. But yeah, it was a nice flip up from the night before.
Yeah, right. Shall we move on?
No.
Why not?
It was Wigan 8, Hull Kingston Rovers 18 in the...
Sorry, I didn't hear you then. What was that?
It was Wigan 8, Hull Kingston Rovers 18 in the surprise result of the weekend. It was 6-0 at half-time, with Wigan dominating the territory, but Hull Chaos scoring with 12 men. Robert Hicks was the referee. In terms of the team stats, Rovers made 119 more metres at a better average gain in spite of 2 fewer breaks and 6 more errors. That error count included several 6-agains that they gave up, compounded also by 7 penalties conceded, but saved somewhat by a better team tackle success rate than their hosts. Individually, Ryan Hall with a try in 164 metres, Greg Minikin with 133 metres, Adam Quinlan with a try in 127 metres, and George Lawler with 101 metres. For Wigan, the returning and rusty Oliver Gildart still managed to achieve 2 tries, 131 metres and 3 successful offloads. The returning and somewhat rusty Liam Marshall had 2 try assists and 107 metres. Sam Powell, 59 tackles, 12 of which were marker tackles. And Liam Farrell went both ways, 47 tackles and 121 metres. There has been a disciplinary note out of this one. Brad Singleton has been hit with a grade C headbutt charge, which carries a 2-match penalty notice. Fan views.
Yep, Ro Hayden, the jinxer-in-chief, said, Wigan didn't play well. You can tell this by looking at the scoreboard, and probably because players playing out of position.
Matt Speakman said, that was not on really after 15 months without fans. Tried nothing until the last 15 minutes. How do we have the ball on the line for about 15 minutes without scoring and then concede a try with a man over when they're down to 12 men? Make it make sense. One outright and passive defensive line giving them meters. There's holes in this team and that'll only be worse next year when a few leave. Lamb has to be under fire now.
Yep, Jen K, always good to hear from you, Jen, said, was great to be back in the DW after all this time. My seat was covered in cobwebs and the usual pigeon shit. Jamie, it was one of the dullest games of rugby ever. Hopefully I came with a game plan, executed it perfectly. Think we can now class this as a wobble.
Yes, the classic Wigan Fan TV, Wigan Wobble. I am fully in wobble mode, Jen. Tom Andrews said, first win in Pyland since I was a 17-year-old lad. Dobson was king and the iPhone 3G was the hottest gadget. How young is he that when he was 17 iPhones were a thing? I'm not even sure iPods were a thing when we were 17, Tim.
No, I got my first iPod as my going to university present.
There you